Hello, YouTubers. Welcome back to our first episode in this conspiracy theory series. I will be reading from this book, The 60 Greatest Conspiracies of All Time, written by Jonathan Bacon and John Whalen. In our first chapter is gonna be CIA acid trip. LSD was invented in Switzerland by Albert Hofmann, or Hofmann, whatever, a researcher for Sandoz Pharmaceuticals. It didn't spontaneously appear among the youth of the Western world as a gift from the god of getting high. The CIA was on to acid long before the Flower Children. That's good to know. So, for that matter, were upstanding citizens like Time Life magnate Henry Luce and his wife, Claire Booth Luce, who openly sang the praises of their magical mystery tours. Oh boy, there's a Beatles reference. Oh boy, I should thank them. During the early 60s. Should be the late 60s. But who cares? Henry, a staunch conservative with close connections to the CIA, once dropped acid on the golf course and then claimed that he enjoyed a little chat with God. The big G.O.D. himself. Wow. Well, better way to make an excuse for your Ahmad Abbots than to say, "Oh, I was talking to big G.O.D. up there," or whoever. Yeah, that was a lame excuse. But he was conservative. What else did he have to say? But anyway. Well, the cognoscenti had the benefit of tuned-in physicians. Tuned-in physicians? This just keeps getting weirder and weirder. First we have people talking about, they just had a little chat with God while dropping acid. And we get tuned-in physicians. Other psychedelic pioneers took the first trip as part of a CIA-controlled research study, or studies. At least one person committed suicide after becoming an unwitting subject of a CIA LSD test. Crashed through a high-story plate glass window in a New York hotel as his agency guardian watched. Pretty lame. Pretty dumb. That agency guardian just watching that person fall to his death while dropping LSD. And the CIA's weird. There's not a lot I can say about the CIA. They, like the FBI, are very, how can I say? They're very secretive in their doings. And some of their doings, as this book will dive deeper, as the book says, changed the world as we knew it. Now anyway, or perhaps the Guardian did more than watch. In June 1994, oh boy, the 90s. In the time of Kurt Cobain snorting cocaine and a bunch of change. The victim's family had his 30-year-old corpse exhumed to check for signs that he may have been thrown out that window. Seems like family's a little worried about his buddy. Numerous others lost their grip on reality, which is one of the main side effects of LSD. You lose your grip on reality, you start seeing weird things, like big babies trying to eat you. Oh boy, you don't want to know. There's even a game with that title, with the word LSD in it. It's called LSD Dream Emulator. It'll make you think that you're on acid. Trust me, it will. Too bad it's all on PS1 and you guys don't have PS1. And plus, it's all in Japanese, so good luck understanding it. But anyway, MK Ultra was the code name the CIA used for its program directed at gaining control over human behavior through covert use of chemical and biological materials. As proposed by Richard Helms, the name itself was a variant of Ultra, the U.S. intelligence program behind Nazi lines in World War II, of which the CIA's veteran spies were justly proud. Justly proud, huh? Of course, justly proud. Helms later became CIA director and gained a measure of notoriety for his Watergate, lying to Congress conviction, and a touch of immorality in Thomas Power's aptly named biography, The Man Who Kept the Secrets. Helms found the MK Ultra program and justified its notably unethical aspects with the rationale, we are not Boy Scouts. Okay. Well, they're not Boy Scouts. Question is, who's their troop leader? Well, if they said they're not Boy Scouts, what makes them not Boy Scouts? What makes them different from Boy Scouts? Nothing. Boy Scouts do some petty stuff. The CIA does some even more petty stuff. At the time, the spook scientists suspected that LSD had the potential to reprogram the human personality. In retrospect, they were probably right. Timothy Leary, the self-proclaimed guru of acid, spoke in similar terms, though he saw unlimited potential for self-improvement in this reprogramming. The CIA and the military simply couldn't figure out how to harness the drug's power. Thank goodness their idea was not to open the doors to perception, but to convert otherwise free human beings into automatons. Oh boy. Here's a quote from John Lennon. We must remember to thank the CIA and the Army for the LSD. Spoke no less than an authority figure on matters psychedelic than John Lennon, who apparently died in 1980. Rip John Lennon. They invented LSD to control people, and what it did was give us freedom. Okay, that was a horrible John Lennon impression.
They wanted to give us freedom. I mean,
Quinn, go on. Or did it? The question. Or did it? The acid-tripping intersection between the CIA and the counterculture is one of the areas where the on-the-record facts about MK Ultra meld into the foggy region of conspiracy theory. It has been suggested, even by prominent participants in the counterculture, that with the LSD, the CIA found the ultimate weapon against the youth movement. Interestingly, most of the participants of the counterculture were tripping on LSD, both legally and illegally.
what the fuck?
Quentin! Sorry, my brother just spouts off profanity like nobody's business.
Say what?
Officially, the MK Ultra program ran from 1953 to 1964, at which it was renamed MK Search, and continued until 1973.
What the heck?
And in all those years, people were tripping because the government told them to trip. Alright. However, U.S. intelligence and military operations with the same purpose have been ongoing at least since World War II and likely changed ahead for many years after MK Ultra's publicly stated conclusion. MK Ultra encompassed an undetermined number of bizarre enough to grotesque experiments. In one, psychiatrist Ewan Cameron, not the father of James Cameron, dummies, received CIA funding to test a procedure he called depatterning. This technique, Cameron explained when he applied for a CIA grant through a front group called the Society for the Investigation of Human Ecology, involved the breaking down of ongoing patterns of the patient's behavior by means of particularly intensive electroshocks, in addition to LSD.
LSD dream emulator.
Quit and shut up! Wow. Very sick of them. Why do we have so many sickos in the United States?
They did that in the United States.
And there are a lot more sickos in the world. But we get the most sickos.
I hate sicko.
Some of the subjects suffered brain damage. Yes, some suffered brain damage. No joke. And other debilitations. One sued the government and won an out-of-court settlement in 1988. Oh boy, the 80s. Who can't remember the 80s? Boy, we had Queen, Bon Jovi, we had them all. We had it all.
We had
Then there was Operation Midnight Climax, in which prostitutes lured unsuspecting Johns to a CIA bordello in San Francisco. They slipped their clients in LSD Mickey, while agency researchers savored the scientific action from behind a two-way mirror, a picture of Martinez at the ready. Author John Marks, whose The Search for the Manchurian Candidate is one of the most thoroughgoing volumes yet assembled on U.S. government mind control research, readily admits that all of his source material comprised but 10 boxes of documents, but those took him a year to comprehend despite the aid of a research staff. Interesting. Marks writes that he sought access to records of a branch of the CIA's Directorate of Science and Technology, the Office of Research and Development, or ORD, which took over behavioral, i.e. mind control research, after MK Ultra's staff dispersed.
Ultra.
Marks was told that ORD's files contained 130 boxes of documents relating to behavioral research. Behavioral research?
What?
Even if they were all released, their sheer bulk is sufficient to fend off even the most dedicated or obsessed investigators. To generate such an intimidating volume of paper must have taken considerable time and effort. Quinn, that's enough! Yet curiously, the CIA has always claimed that its attempts to create real-life incarnations of Richard Condon's unfortunate protagonist Raymond Shaw, the hypnotically programmed assassin of the Manchurian Candidate, were a complete bust. If the demurals are to be trusted, then this particular program constitutes one of the least cost-effective deployments of taxpayer dollars in the history of the U.S. government, which is rife with non-cost-effective dollar deployments. Boy! Make sure your taxes are going to some... Make sure, when you pay your taxes, make sure that they get used a better way than what they've been used for. Like, if your tax dollars, if you pay them taxes and the taxes just go, directly to some crazy mind control experiment, don't pay the taxes! Why don't you start your own country? If, however, it goes to world peace and trying to pay the government's debt, then do it! Just pay the taxes! The CIA's most effective line of defense against exposure of their mind control operations, or any of their operations for that matter, has always been self-effacement. The agency portrays its agents as incompetent stooges, encouraging the public to laugh at their wacky attempts to formulate cancer potions and knock off foreign leaders. Oh, they're just more than that. They do way more pettier things than that.
Hell, they admit.
Quit! Under this cover story, MK Ultra's research team was nothing but a bunch of ineffectual eccentrics. We are sufficiently ineffective to our findings, so our findings can be published. We are sufficiently ineffective, so our findings can be published.
No.
What a dumb statement to make. They're stupid!
That's
CIA trying to recruit a bunch of
hypocrites. Memes.
ineffectual eccentrics, as the book likes to call them,
Or
to do their
memes.
dirty work. Wow, CIA, you need to get
Get a grip.
You need to get on. You need to, get a grip of reality on life, because it's not just that. You gotta do more than that. Quip 1 MK Ultra Consult. Despite the findings of a Senate committee headed by Ted Kennedy that U.S. mind control research was a big, silly failure, and even though Marx, whose approach is fairly conservative, acknowledges that he found no record to prove it, the project may have indeed succeeded. I cannot be positive, but they never found a technique to control people, Marx writes, despite my definite bias in favor of the idea that the human spirit defeated the manipulators. That's a nice quote.
Quotes.
Favor of the idea that the human spirit defeated the manipulators. Boy, we are being manipulated by our government 24/7. Right now, there's a war going on in the Middle East. We have civil unrest. We got Black Lives Matter threatening us with every turn we make to change ourselves. We got police shooting black people.
White people. Nothing matters.
Because of trigger happy, we're in debt with China, who's about to become the next world power. Man, we're in serious hurt here.
Yeah, we need to destroy those things.
Anyway, a sunny view of human nature that, and indeed a consoling one, but the human spirit, history sadly proves, is far from indomitable. The clandestine researchers explored every possible means of manipulating the human mind. The CIA's experiments with LSD are the most famous MK Ultra undertakings, but acid was not even the most potent drug investigated by intelligence and military agencies. What is the most potent drug that they used? I want to see what you guys know.
Cyanide.
No, I don't know if that's potent or not. But anyway. Investigated by intelligence and military agencies. Nor do they limit their inquiries to drugs, hypnosis, electric brain implants, microwave transmissions, and parapsychology also received intense scrutiny. Marx, Kennedy, and many others apparently believe that the U.S. government failed were all too far less sophisticated operations.
Let me tell you something.
From the Moonies to Scientology to EST have scored resounding triumphs. Brainwashing is commonplace among cults, but not with the multi-million-dollar resources of the United States government's military and intelligence operations. Man, this is the reason why we can't pay our debt. We're too busy overfunding intelligence agencies so they can do stupid stuff like this. For that matter, the supposed impetus for the program was the reported success of communist countries in brainwashing. The word itself originally applied to several soldiers who'd fought in the Korean War, who exhibited strange behavior and had large blank spots in their memories, particularly when it came to their travels through the regions of Manchuria. Those incidents were the inspiration for Condon's novel, in which a group of American soldiers was hypnotically brainwashed by the Korean and Chinese communists.
Now there's a game.
And was programmed to kill a presidential candidate.
Now there's a game about that.
No, there is not. Come on. Shut up, Quentin. Interestingly, the belief that one's psyche is being invaded by radio transmissions or electrical implants is considered a symptom of paranoid schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia.
Ain't that ironic? But there's no doubt that the CIA contemplated using those methods and carried out such experiments on animals. And the way these things go, it would require the willful naivety of, say, a subcommittee to maintain that they stop there. Even Marx, who exercises the journalistic wisdom to stick only to what he can back up with hard documentation, rarely acknowledges that the clandestine researchers probably planted electrodes in the brains of men.
Say what?
Marx points out that the electrode experiments went far beyond giving monkeys orgasms. Monkeys. One of the researchers' early achievements. The ultimate goal of mind control would have been to produce a Manchurian candidate assassin, an agent who didn't know he or she was an agent, brainwashed and programmed to carry out their most sensitive of missions. Whether the program's accomplishments reach that peak will probably never be public knowledge, so we are left to guess whether certain humans have been programmed to kill. In 1967, oh boys, 1967, that was a good year for music. That was the best year for music.
That was the best year for...
That was the best year to live in. You had the Grateful Dead, you had the Beatles, and
The Beatles.
you had Cream, and you had the Doors.
Ding, 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 ding. Ah!
Enough. And you had Eric Clapton, and I don't know. They had it all. You had it all if you were born back in 1967. You probably don't remember it though. In 1967, Luis Castillo, a Puerto Rican arrested in the Philippines for planning to bump off Ferdinand Marcos, claimed while in a hypnotic trance that he had been implanted with a post-hypnotic suggestion to carry out the assassination. Sirhan, convicted as the assassin of Robert F. Kennedy, showed unmistakable symptoms of hypnosis. A psychiatrist testifying in Sirhan's defense said that the accused assassin was in a trance when it shot Kennedy, albeit a self-induced one.
What the heck? The heck?
Author Robert Kaiser echoed the doctor's conclusion in his book RFK Must Die. Others, of course, have offered darker conjectures regarding the origins of Sirhan's symptoms. James R.A. Oh boy. The convicted assassin of Martin Luther King Jr. also had a known fascination with hypnosis. And more recently, back in the 90s, British lawyer Fenton Bresler had assembled circumstantial evidence to support a theory that Mark David Chapman, slayer of John Lennon. Oh boy. This gets on my nerves.
Nintendo.
No. But subject to CIA mind control. Way back in 1967, oh boy, they like to come back to the year 1967 all over again. A book titled Were We Controlled? Whose unknown author used the pseudonym Lincoln Lawrence, stated that both Lee Harvey Oswald and Jack Ruby were under mind control of some kind. The book may have been at least a trace of validity. Something in the book convinced Oswald's mother the author was personally acquainted with her son. Did MK Ultra spin off a wave of history-altering assassinations, or did it whelp a brood of hypno-programmed killers? The definitive answer to that question will certainly never reach the public. We are left with John Marks to hope on faith alone that it didn't, but always with the uneasy knowledge that it could have. Perhaps not through assassinations, I'm afraid. And perhaps not even intentionally, MK Ultra definitely altered a generation. John Lennon was far from the only 60s acid hero to make the connection between the mood of the streets and the secret CIA labs. A surprising number of countercultural veterans endorsed the notion that CIA disseminated street acid en masse to deflate the political potency of the youth rebellion.
Say what?
Writes Martin Lee and Bruce Bruce Lane in Acid Dreams, the chronicle of both the clandestine and countercultural sides of the LSD revolution. By magnifying the impulse toward revolutionism out of context, Acid sped up the process by which the movement became unglued. The authors continued. The use of LSD among young people in the U.S. reached a peak in the late 60s, shortly after the CIA initiated a series of covert operations designed to disrupt, discredit, and neutralize the New Left. Was this merely a historical coincidence, or did the agency actually take steps to promote the illicit acid trade? The tale of Ronald Stark, told by Lee and Schlein, may provide the connection between the CIA and the left. Stark was a leading distributor of LSD in the late 60s. At the same time, acid use was at its heaviest, and apparently a CIA operative. The agency has never admitted this, but an Italian judge decided in 1979 whether to try Stark for armed banditry in relation to Stark's many contacts with terrorists. Among other things, Stark accurately predicted the assassination of Aldo Moro, released the drug dealer after finding an impressive series of scrupulously enumerated proofs that Stark
I got some LSD vibes.
CIA from 1960 onwards. Quinn, shut up! It could have been Muse Tim Scully, the chief of Stark's major LSD brewing outfit, a group of idealistic radicals called the Brotherhood, who grew to feel exploited by Stark. That he was employed by an American intelligence agency that wanted to see more psychedelic drugs on the streets, like shrooms. But Lee and Schlein leave open the possibility that Stark may have been simply one of the world's most ingenious con artists, a possibility acknowledged by almost everyone to come in contact with Stark. The CIA's original acid dream was that LSD would open the mind to suggestion, while they found the drug too potent to manage. Sometime around 1973, right before MKUltra founder and by then CIA Director Richard Helms hung up his trench coat and stepped down from the CIA's top post, he ordered the majority of secret MKUltra documents destroyed due to a burgeoning paper problem. If he had a burgeoning paper problem, all he had to do was, put it in the archives.
But he did.
Quinn, among the eradicated material, Lee and Schlein report, were all existing copies of a classified CIA manual titled LSD, Some Unpsychedelic Implications. There exists today no on-paper evidence that anyone has yet uncovered that MKUltra was the progenitor of either a conspiracy to unleash remote-controlled lethal human robots or to emasculate an entire generation by oversaturating it with a mind-frying drug. But MKUltra was very real, and the danger of a secret government program to control the thoughts of its citizens, even just a few of them at a time, needs no elaboration. Wow. What I just read there was a little heavy. It was very heavy. And I only just started reading this book. This book will tell you a lot of things that you haven't learned about in school. Because school is afraid to do this. They're afraid to let you learn about this stuff. And I'm guessing the schools are probably going to block this. Because they don't want you learning about the truth. The hidden, dark, cold truth. Or if I was teacher, if I was a principal in the school, I would make this compulsory night. I would make this. I'll make this mandatory for kids to read and teachers too. All right, here's the preview for the next thing. The next episode. The next episode is going to be called Get Castro. And here's the first paragraph. If the Cold War incubated kind of national hysteria, nowhere was delirium more frenzied than in Florida of the early 1960s. Clay seemed lost top of Fidel Castro.